You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
Hi, this is Carl Weezer. When I'm not helping Jimmy Neutron be, Jimmy Neutron, I listen to the Grawlix podcast while I'm petting my llama. Don't ask.
This is Randy. In the future, his future, or his past.
And this is Jesse. In the future, when people are hired for a new job, instead of watching those terrible training videos, they will have to test out of a VR simulator of their job, aka getting paid to play video games of their jobs.
I could almost get on board with that, I think. Something about
like if you're gonna mess up and spit in the guy's whopper, you do that virtually, not in reality.
That's a good point. A good point.
And you're like, you make all the mistakes in the video game, and then you go out and you do it for real. You're fine.
Yeah, it's not quite where I was thinking it was going, but no, it's good. Yeah, you're right. You make all the mistakes, then you go out and you make them real. You make them real.
Yeah. You just make them real. It's good. There's
definitely things where I'll be playing a game because, there's so many games with like little side quests and time killing aspects where I'll be playing a game, doing this tedious thing, content doing it until I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I would hate doing this in real life. Why am I doing it in a video game? Like, why am I doing a simulation of this thing?
Why am I just like Minecraft? Why am I just digging a hole for an hour?
Literally.
If I dug a hole for an hour in real life, I'd be like, I'm done. This is it. Whatever I was trying to dig a hole for, it's either happening or it didn't happen.
Oh, man. Yeah, if I actually come across diamonds or gold, it'd do me some good in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's no zombies.
I wouldn't make a pickaxe out of it either.
No.
I wouldn't make a diamond pickaxe. Are you crazy?
Oh, but that's like the best thing. It's so useful.
Oh, I know. You need it. It's it's the number one thing you would use your diamonds on in that game, but in
real life.
No, and I'm sure not going to make a diamond hat. Minecraft, you don't make sense.
I didn't think about how silly the idea of like making diamond armor is, and the hat,
we got some diamond shoes. Those sound awesome. Yeah, let's wear Nike diamonds today.
Oh man, I think there's a lot of people that probably would wear diamond shoes though.
Oh yeah, they probably are. They'd at least diamonds on their shoes.
Yeah, well, that's true. If it's just pure diamond shoes, which is kind
that'd be awful, man. You just like, man, you wouldn't even have blisters. You just not have the bottom of your foot because it'd be sliced open from walking. This took a strange turn. Hey, welcome to the Grawlix podcast, episode 53.
Yep, I love how certain we always sound.
Yes, I even knew, but I was just like, yeah, I just gotta make it sound like I don't know that this is episode 53.
Yeah.
Because, tradition.
All of our uncertainty and awkwardness, it's performance art.
It's charm.
Yeah.
Or performance art.
It's charm.
It's both. It's charm, performance art.
It's all in the script. We're just delivering the lines.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, we write weird scripts.
Yeah, we do.
Our copy is strange. Whoever edits this stuff needs a performance review.
Yeah. Yes, they do. They need a reevaluation.
Yes, yeah. What are we talking about today?
Today, we will be talking about this month's poll list pick. Finally getting around to some Invincible.
Incredible.
Oh, yeah. It is very incredible.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be talking about Invincible, specifically the versions we read were the soft cover floppy collected traits, Invincible volume 1 through 3. But if you have the like larger kind of omnibus hardcover trades or collections, it's volume 1. It's basically issues 1 through 13, I think. Not super clear.
So all that, but if there was bonus content, we won't be talking about it.
Right.
So what's the pull list then? We're talking about the pull list. This is our pull list episode. What is the pull list?
So the pull list is every month we read and discuss a book chosen by you, listener, and other listeners and visitors to the website who choose to give us some recommendations on our poll. Basically, you can submit a new book on there if you want to hear us talk about something that's not on the list, or preferably, so we can get through some of this list, you can vote on books that are already there. And every month we take a look at that poll list, choose the one that has received the most votes, and then we read and talk about it next month.
Like right now, we've got like 6 things on the list. So like, you know, it's kind of nice of you. Just go ahead and vote for the things that are there. But, you know, like we've gotten some really good recent additions to the list.
Like
Invincible.
If
you want to vote for some of those really good ones. Yeah, like Invincible screamed to the top of the charts. It's like everybody forgot about that one. And we're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, let's vote for that one.
I don't know who added it. And I don't know who adds, like, I don't, you know, it's anonymous. You can add whatever comic you want. But I don't know who added it, but I swear it was like a month ago, or it would have been a little over a month ago, and it just shot right to the top of the list. So
I think it was one of those where it was added at the beginning of the month, and by the end of the month, it was winning.
Yeah,
and you know, that happens sometimes. You know, Harold, Tesla, and Lovecraft.
I want to say
it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen often like that, but like it happens. You know, we've had a couple like that.
When you were saying Harold Tesla, I want in my
Harold
head was
Tesla. Like that's a distant relative.
Harold Tesla and Kumar. I was like, wait, that's not it. All right.
Go to a White Castle. Tesla, you're driving.
I hear another sequel in the works.
Yes, that would be incredible. Yeah, get on that one.
And if you want to vote on said poll list, you can go to grawlixpodcast.com and look for the tab that says, or the page that says poll list. It'll be there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or on the main page if you just scroll down, not on your phone. It's somewhere else on your mobile device. But on desktop version, if you scroll down, it's right there on the right side of the sidebar of the regular page, the main homepage.
Yes, it is.
So this is that point in time where we know what we're going to be talking about for this episode, which is Robert Kirkman's Invincible. But for next month, we will be talking about the Immortal Iron Fist.
Yeah.
26% of the vote.
That's been on there since shortly before Iron Fist came out, and I have a feeling somebody was wanting us to talk about Iron Fist.
I feel like we were throwing some shade, or I was throwing some shade at Iron Fist. Well, actually, that episode was weird. We kind of flip-flopped.
We did flip-flop because I went into it like I enjoyed the series, and you were like more poo-pooing it.
Oh, yeah. I had, like 2 weeks before, I had totally just crapped all over it.
And then you spent the episode defending it, and I spent the episode picking it apart. So I really don't know what happened there, but I stand by all of it.
I feel like there's just us being balanced. That's all.
Right.
It was a balanced review, you know, like I know where my biases are and I try to work against them sometimes. And so I think that's probably what happened. We both knew we were like pretty far at one end of the spectrum and tried to come back to middle.
And I still like, it's definitely not perfect. Like I stand by my criticisms and picking it apart, but at the end of the day, I still enjoyed it, even though it's problematic. It's flawed.
Yeah.
We're nothing if not fair and balanced.
Somebody was like, these guys, they don't know nothing about gets.
They don't know nothing.
They don't know nothing about fists. So we need to read it.
Stop laughing.
I can't.
That's gonna be an inside joke.
It's like a comma.
It's gonna live on.
Oh yeah, if you don't understand that joke, you got to go back to episode 51 and hear about our hate mail.
Yep, it's a good time. Good time.
We're really good at letting things go.
Oh yeah,
we are. So yeah, that'll be next month. But this month we're talking about Invincible.
Let me tell you about some Invincible. So, Invincible is a comic book series created by Robert Kirkman. You may have heard of that guy. And Cory Walker, written by Robert Kirkman, and the art is, there is a changeover in this chunk of trades that we read.
And it switches like right in the middle of the trade, doesn't it?
Yes. Okay, so Cory Walker co-created the book with Robert Kirkman, and he did the art for issues 1 through 7, as well as 127 through 132. And
so he comes back, huh?
Yeah, which I did not realize. And Ryan Oatley picked up the art duties with issue 8 and penciled all the other ones. It's kind of interesting because that's similar to how it went with Walking Dead. Like
I was just gonna say that, like, he co-created with Tony Moore, and then things went sideways there, and then continued without him.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think with this one, it was more amicable. Like Cory just couldn't keep up with the schedule or something.
That definitely seems like the case. And I have the Wikipedia page open in front of me, so I'm sure it's got that somewhere.
I think I read that in one of the intros.
Okay. And it is kind of reflected in the, like, there's a bit of meta business in the book, in the story itself.
Is there? Okay. I don't know if I caught it, but
a little bit. There's just it's a comment on reusing art and keeping up with deadlines.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Anytime, it's because several times, and he'll continue to do it throughout the series, he'll go to a comic shop or a comic convention later on in the series, and for the most part, the creative team's like in-comic personality is this creator of Science Dog, the in-world.
Oh yes, I love that. I love that because that's a total meta reference too. Did you read all the intros?
I don't think so. I didn't this time.
Okay.
I didn't this time.
Because Science Dog is a thing that they were pitching like before they ever were pitching Invincible. And Science Dog never happened. But it shows up all over the place in the background and inside of the world of Invincible.
That's so funny. I love that they were pitching Science Dog because it seems so goofy to me. I was like, that's silly, but of course it's silly. But no, they were actually pitching that. That's fun. But yeah, they will occasionally do that and use those opportunities to kind of take jabs at the comic industry, take jabs at other comics, and take jabs at themselves. You know, it's a bit of fun. I've read a huge chunk of this series. I'm a little behind now, and the end is approaching. I don't think it's over just yet, but it's approaching.
I was going to say we're just in time to start reading this when they're going to end it.
And
just in time.
I have fallen behind, and it's a little bit by default. Like, I'm still buying them. I've been buying them, but oh man, I don't want it to end. So I haven't. It's like I was saying last episode about Boardwalk Empire. It's like, I know it's almost over. They're starting to kill off these characters. I'm just going to stop for now and wait a little bit.
Well, that's what I did with Vision. And have you read the end of Vision yet?
No.
Same deal. Yeah, it's like you don't want to
because it's so good. I don't want it to end, even though it ended like 2 years ago, like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. No, I get it.
So I've read a big chunk of this, and I'm a huge fan. And I didn't start reading it till not all that long ago. Then once I gave it a whirl, like, it's just one of those where I just devoured trade after trade and push it on everyone I can, including Jesse. And finally through this wonderful pull list conceit for Grawlix, we've been able to fit it into his schedule.
Well, and there's, like, the funny thing about this is that I have actually had free copies of like the first couple of issues for an awful long time. And I don't even know why or how or whatever, but I wound up with like the first couple of issues for free. And, those kind of things. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll download that for sure. And then I also got like, I've got a couple of copies for free, or not free, but like Humble Bundle, of course, because Kirkman's Skybound imprint does a lot through Humble Bundle. So I have like at least the first volume through that. And it still wasn't until it showed up on the pull list that I went ahead and read it. So, but I mean, yeah, I've enjoyed it. I can understand why they're such big fans now. I mean, it makes sense. Like, I don't think there's too many people out there just bashing on Invincible. It's pretty universally hailed as like a great thing.
Mm-hmm. We read volumes 1 through 3 of the trade paperbacks. It goes by the titles. Volume 1 is Family Matters, 2 is 8 is Enough, and 3 is Perfect Strangers, all their sitcom stuff. Coming to this book, like, I don't remember why. I think I had heard somebody mention it on a podcast, Invincible, because I think if I'd have just randomly come across this book, not noticing Kirkman's attachment to it, I'd been like, okay, Invincible, okay, it's a superhero. I might even been demeaning, be like, it's an off-brand superhero book. Like, you know, it's a
sure.
It is. It's a superhero book, but I might have just kind of skipped past it because usually when I go to like Image Comics, I'm looking through Image Comics titles. Usually I'm looking for something that's not superhero or something, you know?
Yeah, you're looking for something that's a little different than what the big two offers.
Yeah, exactly. Though I would still say this is definitely a little different than the big two offers, even though it very much plays in that world. But I'd heard good things on podcasts and heard stuff about, of course, this is kind of Kirkman's thing, is like just long game stuff, and that the book would occasionally be super hardcore and very brutal at times. And I was like, brutal? Long game? I'm into this. So
sure, yeah.
And it's another case of like last episode we talked about Superman.
Super Serial.
Super Serial.
Super Serial. Oh, that was 2 episodes ago or 3.
It all blends together. The months, the years, that all blends together. But we were talking about Superman and how I was impressed because I really enjoyed like the character development and emotional depth, but also at the same time, like being able to balance action, but like cheesy fluff, like feel good fluff. Just being impressed by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason's run on Superman. And that's touches very much on like, I think what appeals to me so much about Invincible is you don't get so much of the fluff, but as it goes on, you really get to know everybody. So it's got a heavy focus on relationships and characters. But at the same time, like sometimes it'll be kind of feel good. A lot of times it'll just be not feel good and it'll be brutal. And
right.
It has an interesting balance of things that, if not written well, wouldn't work very well. Because, like, even in this, what we've read for the discussion today, like, there's some tonal shifts that could be super jarring and off-putting. But I always think it kind of works here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just feels natural somehow, even though it is jarring. But it's like, oh, I should have seen that coming. I didn't, but I should have.
I'm sorry, I kind of launched into opinions a little quick. So it's basically what it is, in case you don't know. And I think for people who haven't read this, there's a couple twists, and we'll do our usual. We'll just kind of, there will be spoilers, and eventually we'll get to the big spoiler of this first chunk. But maybe if we can hold that towards the end a little bit.
Sure.
Invincible is the teenage son of Omni-Man, an extraterrestrial superhero. He's very much a very Superman type.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has
with a mustache,
with like a 70s stash,
like a Selleck, like a Tom Selleck thing.
Mm-hmm. I guess it could be an 80s stash too, but yeah. Invincible inherited his father's superhuman strength and ability to fly, and he's doing the superhero gig. He's a high school student, so we get a lot of like him. I don't know that it's so, because when I don't think the first volume, the first whatever 4 issues initially hooked me, but I liked it. I was like, okay, well, this seems fun. It's kind of lighthearted.
It's like coming of age kind of thing. It's
exactly.
Like he's kind of a dork. He's kind of a Peter Parker type, but not really getting picked on. You know, like you see a lot of parallels to a lot of different superhero comics. Like it like this stuff in high school does very much remind me of a young Peter Parker in high school kind of thing. But then power sets, that's more like Superman.
Yeah, he's a kid trying to balance he's got these new powers, and
he's very nonchalant about it. He's like, well, finally happened. Got some powers.
Oh yeah. It's and this is very much like a world where there are superheroes. Superheroes exist. His father had like come from outer space and, was strong and like helping people out, and like the world like embraced him pretty quickly. They're like, oh, this is a good guy. And he's like, super strong. He's like Superman, except they don't have Superman.
They have Omni-Man. Yeah.
But there were other superheroes before him. So it's not an uncommon thing. It's like, your standard Marvel or DC universe where it's like, yeah, there's superheroes and everybody knows they're superheroes. But many of them,
and there's
most of
teams, and there's teen teams, and then the teen teams become the normal teams, and the whole thing, the whole legacy thing.
Oh yeah,
a little bit.
And there's even analogs for characters, and I don't know why I enjoy when books do that so much, but when they don't have the rights to use these characters, and like, well, we're just going to do this analog. We're going to have a Nightwing, and I don't know why that amuses me so much, but it always
duplicate instead of multiple man. Yeah.
Oh, duplicate. It's such a good name for it though, too.
Yeah.
Duplicate.
Well, I mean, they had me at hello on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right up your alley, man.
It's a straight up pun there. Yeah.
A pun.
I'm a huge multiple man fan anyways. And then make it a pun. Heck yeah.
What, if anything, were you expecting going into this, Jesse?
I really didn't have any expectations. I just knew it was Kirkman, so I knew that the writing would be pretty solid. I was aware of like the character design, and I thought I liked the character design, but I really, other than that, I didn't have a whole lot of context for anything.
Okay.
I just knew it was a Kirkman property. It was pretty well written, and I knew what the characters looked like, kind of the art style a little bit.
The art style, I find myself so conflicted about. Because in general, I like it. I like the coloring. Corey Walker's art is the stuff I'm really conflicted about because it's super clean, and I like that aspect. It's not like it's not like sketchy. It's very clean lines. It looks very digital, kind of like, and also kind of stylized in a little bit more of a classic cartoon style, where you'll have lines like, I think of Adam Eve's hair, where there's always that one swoop that's essentially just a line that'll extend beyond. Her hair and stuff. But his noses, and there's weird cheek lines that drive me wild. It's like, what is that? Why is that there? It's so weird. I just get hung up on weird things, I guess. But I'm conflicted about it. Like, I like how clean it is, but also not wild about it. But his layouts are always good, and angles are good. Proportions always look like he's good. I just not wild about some of the stylistic decisions.
Okay, I see what you're talking about with the nose. He's got like,
it's always like a swirl on it.
Well, I mean, like there is that little bit. Basically, he's drawing extra attention to that point that comes out of the tip of the nose, but he doesn't always put it in the right spot.
Yeah.
It's almost like he puts a U. On some people it is legitimately like a swirl.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it varies quite a bit. And then Ryan Oatley, he comes in and he's got a little bit more of the traditional comic book style with a little bit heavier lines, but it always looks fantastic too. So between the two, when I think of Invincible, I think of Corey Walker style, but I kind of prefer Ryan Oatley style.
Yeah, I can see that because I'm flipping through later stuff and you don't have that weirdness with the nose.
That's the main thing.
Which I didn't notice it until you pointed it out, and now I couldn't unsee it in those early issues.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, yeah, it's on everybody's nose. Is different in every single panel. It's such an unnecessary detail for the most part.
Oh yeah, it's obviously a intentional stylistic choice. Whatever. I'm just not keen with it, but.
When you can see that the next guy, he tries not to just totally take it away, but he's much more subtle about having that detail.
Mm-hmm. The changeover is noticeable, but not extremely jarring. I guess the line work makes it a little bit more jarring, but his interpretation of the characters are all still spot on to how they looked before.
Mark and Mom and Dad in particular, if you hadn't kept them pretty consistent, it would have been much more jarring, but it feels like those three characters in particular are still very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Omni-Man still looks like Omni-Man. Mark still looks like Mark.
And even Eve, with her like hair swoop that I mentioned, like he doesn't do the hair swoop beyond the lineup because I don't know, it's just not really in that kind of style, but it still looks exactly the same type of hair style, whatever.
Mm-hmm. I like how they have that whole like I'm looking at volume 3 right now, and they have like a analog for Hydra, and they even make a little aside about it later. Like the problem with these groups is basically Hydra. And they're like, I know, right?
that's there's so much, like it feels like a celebration of superhero conventions and superhero comics and cliches and tropes.
Mm-hmm.
It also little like loving jabs here and there, but doesn't exist purely in spoof because it's doing its own thing. It has interesting characters.
And I think what I appreciated about it is that it has reverence for those tropes, but it also, because it knows those tropes so well, it can have fun and take you down a road and then go the other way. Like you just assume, and I don't know, maybe they do get together, but like you just assume that Adam, Eve, and Mark are just gonna hit it off, and they're gonna spark some kind of relationship. And at least in these first 3 issues, no, that doesn't even happen.
Mm-mm. No, and
almost like they wouldn't even consider it. Like he literally thinks of her like a sister, which is weird because she would be a mentor.
When the opportunity opens up, they even then just like throw this other chick at him, like.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, here's this girl that like you don't know. We've never mentioned before.
You don't know her at all, but he's like, oh yeah, her for sure.
And it's kind of interesting because the relationship with her isn't even hardly touched on because like I swear the next time you even see her is they're kissing and you're like, whoa,
yes, yeah.
When did that happen?
Yeah, it's like they just met and of course they're playing on that because then Adam Eve like flies up or whatever and sees that through the window, and then that's pretty much the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
from what I can tell. But I mean, like that's such a trope, where it's like, oh, that unrequited love, like, well, I couldn't date her because she was dating somebody else. So, but she deserves better. But as soon as my opportunity presents itself, but they don't even go there. They don't even touch on it. But it feels like a place that they're going to.
Mm-hmm. I think the coming of age thing is really interesting because, especially the first volume, it's very much like upbeat and kind of light and fun, and everything's all groovy. And then it does start to get into somewhat darker territory. And I found, and I'm trying not to extend beyond what we've read here, the series as a whole does really well at like evolving along with Mark. And I'm not sure, I don't think it's as much a case as like, well, the characters getting older or learning, so the stories are going to be a bit more adult or intense or whatever. I think it's a case of like he gets into the world and is exposed to more like intense
almost
situations.
Almost like a naivete. Like he's naive to how things work, and the longer like the more time that he spends in it, the more he understands how it actually works.
Yeah, and I think that's reflected really well throughout the series, and it really gets us like a solid start in these 3 books, I think.
Yeah, and like the character work is interesting because you have these characters that you see a lot of, and then you have these characters that you just see a little bit of, but they're all kind of treated very similarly, like even the characters that aren't superheroes. So like, I'm trying to remember his name. The guy that he goes on a college day tour. Yeah.
It's not Derek. Derek was one of the guys with
Kyle
the bomb.
or something. I don't even know what his name is. He even does the whole like Superman thing where he's like, can we fly?
Oh God, that's so good. It's so good.
And he's like this, and Mark's like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, it dates itself a little bit because this series has been going on for a while. Because Mark does say something that I think might not necessarily be said now,
Yeah.
But and not to be
is
a
it Derek? Is that the name of the kid? Oh wait, maybe Derek is the.
I think Derek is the guy
the jerk.
Yeah, he's the jerk that the teacher tries to turn into a bomb, or he does turn.
Oh, that's right. Oh my god.
Oh, that's okay. That reminds me of another like discussion point.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, I forgot about some of this stuff where they're at the funeral and you see all the old Image comic heroes.
Oh, is that? See, I'm not super familiar with a lot of the.
Well, like Savage Dragon in particular, he's the one that they nail you over the head with. But you have like U.S. Patriot and Shadowhawks even in there.
Did you see Charlie Brown? He pops up several times.
What?
There's a bald-headed
Charlie Brown.
Oh, now that I'm looking at it, there's two versions of Charlie Brown. There's in the mall scene where I think I'm not sure if it's the first or second kid that gets turned into a bomb and he wakes up in the mall before it blows up. There's a lady with this kid in a Charlie Brown shirt. It's a yellow shirt with the zigzaggy stripe, and he's a bald-headed kid. And then later on, I think there's an older kid with bald head and the same kind of shirt at the college, I think.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Okay, I see him. William.
God, that was driving me crazy. Thank you. Yeah, William. So you were saying like they treat even the non-superhero characters like kind of equally, or like give them.
Yeah. So like William gets about the same amount of face time as say like the guy who leads the Teen Titan team. Basically, it's not Teen Titans, but
it's the Teen Team. Literally,
the
that's their title. Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, Robot seems like one of the strangest characters because he's like what's his deal? He's just a robot? What is his deal?
Yeah, is he a person in a robot body? What's going on?
He's such an interesting character. We get a couple interesting like within these stories, we get a couple arcs. We got the arc of like somebody's abducting teens from their high school, and then they wake up with they're actually turned into a bomb. Like it's like if it's like when people get bombs strapped to them and sent off somewhere, except like their organs and stuff are actually turned into the inner workings of a bomb somehow, and that's like kind of their first. It's kind of his first like big case or whatever. Not that they have like cases, but his first big dealing with a villain. In fact, the first issue opens with basically him flying with this guy who's got this bomb thing going on, and then tossing him, and he blows up. And that's something I kind of wanted to touch on was how it handles death, because I mean, not that they're affected by it, but it's not like, for example, the kid that wakes up in the mall, or there's another kid that wakes up in a mall, and Invincible and Omni-Man, Mark and his dad, come across it, and his dad like opens the shirt. He asks him like, who, did you see who did this? And the kid's like, what? Like he doesn't know what the heck's going on. And he opens the shirt and there's like 1 second on the timer. So his dad just tosses the kid out the ceiling so he doesn't blow up in the mall.
Right.
And it's such a strange, like, I mean, what else is he going to do? But it's such a strange, rather like he just does it kind of cavalierly.
Sure. Yeah.
And you understand why, but it's still strange.
I was just say, well, and it becomes even more obvious as time goes on, as we get to some of the later, plot devices. It's like, okay. But yeah, it is really jarring. But you also get to see that pretty early on in the way that Mark deals with things versus the way his dad deals with things. Like the guy that, what was it? The alien
Alan.
that comes. Alan, yeah, which is super fun. Where it's like, okay, I'm really busy. I need you to go deal with Alan. You don't know that's his name at that time, but you're like, all right, it's time. You got to go fight. You got to go fight the alien guardian guy. He just comes at this time every year. I don't know why. And then Mark is like, hey, why do you come every year at this time? And he's like, well, oh, you don't know. And they just talk about it. And we're like, oh, you've been coming to the wrong planet for years. Like he just has a conversation with the guy and straightens everything out. Whereas his dad would just like beat him up and throw him into the sun kind of thing.
And that's such a, when in doubt, throw him in space. That's something that comes up later.
Why not?
But that's such a well-handled section because first off, it's kind of a bit of fun It also sets up that they can fly into space, that he just needs to hold his breath, and sometimes his dad can hold his breath for up to 2 weeks, so he's sure he'll be fine.
Right.
It sets up the universe that they exist in because, at least it paints a broader picture of like the universe outside of just what's happening on Earth.
Oh, sure. Like it's not just heroes on Earth. Like there's, creatures with powers all over the universe.
Yeah, because Alan's job is to show up every so often. Like there's a waiting list of planets who are like, we want to be tested or whatever. And he shows up, fights that planet's chosen champion just to make sure that their defenses are up to par or whatever. And just so there's like this whole like organization set up to do that kind of stuff. And just that paints like an intriguing picture of like, well, wow, okay, what else is going on out there?
Right.
Plus, it, as you said, it kind of shows the difference between how Mark handles things and how his dad handles things. And Mark's mom even kind of rubs it in his dad's face a bit, which is fun. But
right. Yeah.
It's like, he's like, oh, you defeated that guy. It's really, or, he's like proud of him for defeating the guy. He's like, yeah, just talk to him. It's like, what? Didn't you ever think to do that?
Yeah. Wait, did you ever try that? No.
Alan shows up later in the book too, in what we read.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And he is a great character. He's one of my favorites.
I don't know who to compare him to, but he reminds me of something. He's just a nice guy. I mean, like once you know what's actually his deal.
Right? He's even like, you're like apologetic for the mistake and been wasting 15 years going to this planet.
And when you see him again, he's just like genuinely trying to help. He's just like, you need to know about this.
Oh, and then, so when they're having a heart-to-heart, well, kind of a heart-to-heart, well, the fact that they do kind of have a heart-to-heart towards the end of this, him and Alan, and it's like Alan's, it's like, whoa, like he's actually like being super sympathetic. And like reading it this time through, I was like, wow, I'm like, I don't know. It's not just like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, this is what's going on. He's like, well, let's sit down and talk about this.
Yeah, yeah. Urath, where's that? This is Earth. Skink's dead. It's not Skink.
There's also, this hits me on like a lot of like awesome sci-fi levels because there's also at one point like they get invaded by these aliens. I think it's the first like kind of horde of aliens Mark goes up against with his dad. Not that there's a bunch of them in this or anything, but that came through from another dimension. And they found that they were fighting them and they kept getting easier to fight because they were aging super fast. So they figured time worked different.
Yes, yeah.
And at one point, Omni-Man, his dad, gets pulled into there and he's gone for, what did he say, maybe a couple weeks or a couple days. But he said time worked different over there, that he could have been there for months or years. He wasn't sure, but it was a long time. So I just love that concept.
Well, and, we start to see the seeds of what will be the big reveal. Like already in the second volume, in 8 is Enough, we start to see like the dad just all of a sudden makes a questionable decision. Like we mentioned I don't know if I don't know when I mentioned it, but I mentioned there's a funeral that's going to come up. Like not everything warrants like a straight up funeral. Like death is kind of dealt with on a very casual level in these books, but like when it comes to a superhero, if a superhero is killed, then you get a full blown superhero funeral, just like you'd see at the end of the death of Superman or something. And so there's something that happens in the course of the book where one of these major heroes that you would consider like a JLA kind of person gets killed. And you get all these references to other Image heroes of the time. So you've got like Savage Dragon, and you've got U.S. Patriot, and you've got Shadowhawk, and they're just kind of there. But you start to see like how that superhero is killed is like, what? It's that first jaw dropping, like, what's going on here moment. And that just sits there. That just sits there for about a half a book,
Oh, you're right.
They don't answer it until you get into the third volume. And I'm being purposely vague because I don't know if now's the time to explain or not.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose we could. Man, this stuff with War Woman, when she pops up, it goes so like Kirby.
Oh, no, absolutely does. Like the art style in particular. They even have the Kirby crackle.
The Kirby crackle all over everything. And that dude that comes through just looks like a Kirby character. Man, that's awesome.
Well, and then when she puts on her outfit, she looks like Big Barda almost.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like a mix between Big Barda and Wonder Woman, which is what she's obviously supposed to kind of look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they have these Guardians of these Guardians of the Globe, and I guess we could lead into some of the super spoilery stuff because we're getting there. But they have these Guardians of the Globe, and it's totally a JLA or a Justice League analog,
right?
Blatantly, they have a fish guy who's bored, and
yeah,
they have War Woman, like we mentioned. They have a Martian Manhunter, but what did they call him? Like Martian Man?
Probably.
And he's super strange. And then their version of Green Lantern it's a green ghost, and he like has this green stone that he has to swallow to get his powers.
Yeah.
And when he's done, he has to like vomit it up, and it's so gross.
Yeah. When they even have this whole scene where he like vomits it up because they're done. And it's like, oh no, I've got to swallow it again. Yep.
Can I at least
can I at least clean up? Nope. No time.
Oh, and then the Immortal, I think the Immortal is, I don't know, Omni-Man is very much like their Superman, but the Immortal is kind of the same kind of deal, except, well, he's immortal. Like he can fly and he's super tough. But
he's like the most interesting man in the world, bearded version of Superman.
Yeah. Oh, and his introduction is where they come across some old guy who what does he call himself? He's basically strapped on like this biplane jetpack thing.
Yeah, he's obviously the Vulture,
and he's got cancer, so he's going to suicide bomb the guy, but he's also got like all kinds of like poison and stuff. It's going to irradiate the area, the people below him. And the Immortal says, when in doubt, throw them into space. So he just chucks them into space.
Yeah.
And then way later, I think it's when Alan shows back up towards the end of this volume, the third volume. There's one panel where you can see that guy dead in space floating.
Oh, no. I don't think I caught that.
Oh, yeah.
No.
So good.
That's awesome.
So this, not JLA, not Justice. Oh, and there's also a Flash character. They're all called to an emergency situation. And this is like the big, I mean, there's been little adventures, but this is like where it kind of all starts to turn.
Yeah.
And the series is really good. Like even just through these 3 books, is like each book almost sets up like, here's the introduction to the world. The first book, the characters, and it ends with like leaving you thinking like, okay, well, that's what this story is. Here's the status quo. And then the next book like picks up with that. But then by the time that one ends, it's almost like it's changed or it's slightly different, or it's like, oh, okay, this is what it's going to be. And the series is good about doing that. But these guys get horribly murdered and gory.
Yeah, like they just show up they were like, hey, we're here. It's time to start. Oh, my head's gone.
It's so
good. Like you see guts and stuff and you don't even know who's doing it.
Because the book is, okay, so the trade, of course, is split into chapters. Each chapter would have been the issue, the floppy. Almost the entire issue is introducing each of these characters. Each one gets several pages. And then once they all come together, they're just murdered instantly.
Yeah.
So it's so like Kirkman messing with you.
Right. Well, I mean, like if you've read any of The Walking Dead, you also know that this is kind of Kirkman's MO, where it's like you think you know a character and then boom, it flips it on you, kind of thing. And that's totally how that second volume ends, is that you find out who killed them all. And it's, do I say now? I mean,
go for it. Oh, that is the volume.
Yeah, I mean, right at the end, it's the very last page. It's Mark's dad. It's Omni-Man kills them all. Like, and these are his I mean, I don't think Omni-Man is in the Guardians of the Globe at this time, but he was in the Guardians of the Globe at one time. So they all know him, and he's worked with them. But then, boom, he just like kills them all.
Mm-hmm. Kills them all,
and then they just leave it at that. That's it. Like that's the end. The next book starts with
it starts with
the next chapter starts with the funeral or whatever.
No, Well, that volume ends with that. The next book starts with Star Trek. Like,
oh yeah,
totally Star Trek, not Star Trek. The Next Generation specifically.
Yeah.
Oh, and Alan, because randomly, what does that even have to do with anything? Oh, it just establishes that Alan's got to get to Earth. They've got download instead of data. And yeah, it's good stuff. Alan saves them and then flies off. It's like, I got stuff to do.
And then you go back to Mark and his family, and they're just hanging out, and Mark and Dad are just gonna watch Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
We're like nothing ever happened. He just killed all of his teammates, and then boom, here we are playing catch and hanging out watching movies.
As a old school zombie movie fan, I appreciated that it is full on Day of the Dead, and then when they're watching it's even the opening lines, the hello, is anybody there? Like that's straight up, that's legit, that's Day of the Dead. But of course, it's Kirkman, he knows his zombie stuff.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, also Robot.
Oh, he gets called up. Yeah,
he gets called up by the government. And the government kind of the Guardians of the Globe is like a government thing, government funded, I guess. Well, it was partially privately funded, but since they're all dead, they've gone to Robot to set up and lead a new Guardians of the Globe. But we get introduction. We get more of an insight into how these, at least the upper level superhero teams work.
When they do the whole like audition to be on the team kind of thing, and you get to meet a lot more characters. So, I mean, like, even though the top of the top have just been decimated, there's still that many heroes on the planet that they can just hold auditions, American Idol style, to fill the ranks.
Oh, in this volume, we also get, I guess we get a little bit of it earlier too, but we get Invincible and Adam Eve working together. And that's fun. And it seems like even though they like patrol and stuff together in earlier issues, we don't actually get a whole lot of that.
Right.
But these tryouts are great. Monster Girl.
She's awesome.
So crazy. Okay, let's talk about the Molar twins, or the clones, I guess. The two blue guys. They don't even seem that important, but they keep popping up. There's these two blue guys. They're bad guys. They pop up at the funeral. Mark fights them at one point because they're stealing game boxes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
But they bring back the Immortal. They tried to put mind control chips in his head and it didn't work, but they reattached the Immortal's head. So that establishes that the Immortal can keep coming back to life so long as his parts are put back together. Right. So the Immortal, who is one of the ones that definitely saw who was murdering them before he got murdered, he's alive. He's back. He's alive again. So that's trouble. Yeah.
When he throws down with the Omni-Man, and Mark kind of shows up in the middle of it, and he watches it happen. Like Omni-Man tries to like fly off into area where television news cameras wouldn't catch it happening, but then he just like kills him again, kind of thing. But Mark's right there, so now he's kind of like, what is going on?
And this for, I was digging it up until this point, but I think this is like, for me, was the big hook when this happened, because it like, you've got,
this is not what I expected. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is doing something new.
It's again, setting up kind of expectations and then just shaking the crap out of you, because up to this point, at least for me, and maybe it might've been different for you, because you're like, okay, well, his dad definitely killed those guys, but like, was he under, like, did he really, like, or was he?
Yeah, as a Maxwell Lord kind of thing where he's under mind control. What's going on here? Yeah,
exactly. But here you get the super brutal, like, you get the explanation of, why he did it.
He just tears the Immortal in half this time, covered in his blood while he's like, Mark, we got to talk.
Which is, they've been leading up to this where he's like practicing this, like, Mark, we need to talk speech.
Right.
And so I like that when he finally gets into it, he's covered in blood. He just ripped the Immortal in half. And he's like, we need to talk.
Yeah.
So even when it's like grotesque and horrifying, like, it's still funny. And then he lays out, his people are basically I was speaking of like,
they're like Kryptonians. It's funny because it's like both stories are very like Superman analogs, you know, but it's like Superman analog from the original Superman run versus Superman analog from like later depictions of Krypton kind of thing. Whereas like Krypton's just very, this is how it is, and we conquer places and we're cold, you know? And like in the first version, you just thought, okay, it's basically Superman, and that's the base level we're gonna get. And now in this, it's like, oh no, yeah, we totally just fight and take over places, and we just got organized about it. And so my job was to come here and take over.
And a nice bit of, yeah, I mean, they're very much survival of the fittest, world conquering, horrible murderers.
Oh yeah.
A nice bit of art, even though this is before and after the artist change, is if you look at his first telling of like the nice version, the fake version of his people, and then look at this, it's panel for panel, like the layouts are the same. It's panel for panel the same, except obviously depicting things differently. And that's just a nice touch.
Yeah, nice callback. Absolutely.
Also, during all this, you see Alan's people getting attacked.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and they're getting like destroyed by his people. So you wonder if Alan isn't like a refugee of his own planet.
And so he's like, so, you know, Mark, you got powers, and it's time to like think about helping me take over this planet. And Mark's having none of it.
Time to start the family business, son. And by the way, you're just going to be me pretty soon because I have really aggressive genes.
Oh, and we also get the interesting bit of they age slower as they get older. So he's like, you could potentially live for thousands of years. But I don't understand. Obviously, he didn't want it to go down like this, but I don't know how he thought Mark would be down for this at all.
Right, he was raised as a human boy, basically.
Not only raised as a human boy, but like, I think Omni-Man kept up the facade too well. And he even says at like certain points, he like felt like he was just falling into like he was just going to live that life and ignore his duties. But you'd think he'd like would have taken the opportunity to like kind of instill some things in Mark's upbringing that might lend him towards being down for this. But he was raised
exactly,
by one of the most powerful superheroes to be a good guy, and it's like, and then all of a sudden he's going to flip on that and expect Mark just to be down.
Right. And then he's like knocking him through buildings. Is like, see, son, do you see? This is not your world. Like, oh wow, yeah, okay. You just punched him through buildings. Yeah, he sees now.
And they don't. This isn't a Man of Steel or what was Apocalypse, X-Men Apocalypse deal where just cities are being destroyed, but like they're not really thinking about
there's
casualties.
You don't see any casualties or anything. Yeah,
they make a point of like, he's like, of thousands of people died in this, I want to say fight,
like
but
he smashes them into he smashes Mark right into a L train kind of thing, like full of people, and you see the other people like falling out of the train, and it's pretty it's pretty awful.
They collapse several buildings, and he knocks them into mountains, and the mountains are avalanched down onto villages, like just maximum damage. And it's not even a fight. He's just beating the crap out of Mark. And it's pretty brutal. Although there's a couple moments like when he throws him into the ocean and he looks down at Mark like unconscious in the ocean, and he like grabs him and pulls him out, that he's like, I don't necessarily want to kill the kid now, but
right.
Yeah, it's a good moment where he's like talking about, you know, the older we get, the slower we age, and everyone, you know, you'll outlive every fragile being on this planet. And he's like, well, you know, what will you have after 500 years? Trying to be like, you know, why would you want to protect these people? Because they're not going to stick around. You'll end up alone. And he says, you, Dad, I'd still have you. And that shakes him.
Yeah.
That shakes him.
But not like in a, you know, not in the way where it's like, okay, oh, you're right, son. He just takes off.
Yeah.
Rather than just kill Mark, he just takes off.
And there's even a shot where he's flying out into space. He's got tears. Like, it's pretty good. Like, he's a bad dude, but he has been on Earth too long. He has some emotions, but you would assume he would. It's his son and his family and stuff. Yeah, that's the big
That's
thing.
a pretty big twist there.
And then after that, Mark's messed up, but he heals, and then we get his introduction into like the government facility and this Cecil guy or Cecil.
Oh yeah, and you start to find out just how his dad was connected to the government, basically.
Yeah, because the government was basically like he worked for the government, and that's what they are setting Mark up with here. He's like, now that your dad's gone, we'll help you and your mom out, but you need to take his place.
You have some fun. You also have some fun like sci-fi stuff where like they'll walk into a room and it's basically like Matrix style perception filter where like there is a room full of things going on, but all Mark sees is a white room.
Mm-hmm. And they can do this because of stuff that's been put into the water.
Yes, yeah.
And then he's like, well, if it's the lights, then how come we can see each other? And that's complicated. Explaining that would be a waste of time, a lot of time. So I like the whole idea of like, here's this little hole in the science logic. And he's like, we don't have time for that.
Yeah. Comic books.
Yep.
Wave your hand, comic books.
And I like how this ends. I like how it ends. It's him and Alan talking on the moon, or telepathically talking on the moon, because you can't talk in space. And Alan's like, so, what are you going to do? And Mark says, finish high school, I guess. That's fun and interesting, despite all the crazy stuff that's happened up to this point.
Yeah, he just perseveres.
What do you think? Live up to the hype, or it was good, but not amazing?
Well, I mean, like, there's a lot of hype surrounding this book. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's tough to say. But I think that, I think if I had only read the first volume, like what we usually do is we usually just take one volume. And in this case, we went ahead and did 3 volumes. I think if I had only read that first volume, I would have been like, oh, okay, this is all right. Mm-hmm. And that would have been that. But I think, even just the addition of the second volume, but definitely the addition of the third volume, where you really get to see that first huge plot twist come to full fruition. Mm-hmm. I think that really helped say, okay, yeah, there's more going on here than just being another superhero book for a different company.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. And I'm glad you got through at least volume 3, because like I said, volume 3 was definitely the big hook for me, although volume 2 was good. And it had all the Guardians of the Globe stuff, which was fun. And yeah. And I agree. Like, if I'd have just read the first volume, I'd have been like, yeah, that was okay. But it, not necessarily what I'm looking for, it's
sure.
But it feels like it doesn't accurately represent what the series is. But I guess at that time it did. It's just the series evolves or whatever.
Well, and in the intro, they always talk about like the pitch for Invincible and how everybody was sold immediately on it. And so I wonder what that pitch was like, because it had to be a little bit more far reaching than, okay, he's basically like Superboy.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't, it couldn't have been just that. It had to be like, okay, he's Superboy if Superboy were actually the son of Zod. Like that's a little closer.
Oh yeah.
To what we actually get.
Oh no, that's actually pretty good. That's kind of spot on. It's where you think he's the son of Superman. Turns out it's Zod.
Right.
It's a series, and this is why, made a old long game Kirkman. That's kind of why I make the joke, because I think it's a series that only gets stronger as it goes.
Sure.
Which isn't always the case. Like sometimes you'll get series that kind of like fade away or whatever, but it world builds so well, and it continues to do so. And all these like weird little side characters you've seen in these first 3 issues, a lot of them will get explored a lot more. Some of them will, in fact, almost all of them get explored a lot more, and odd characters that are in here for like throwaway characters show up later and have important parts. And
oh yeah,
I don't know, Kirkman just handles that long storytelling so well, to where obviously it's super serial. It's very serialized.
It's super serial.
Favorite characters, because this is definitely and again, as the series goes on, becomes more apparent. This is definitely a character book. Like there's so many characters, and they get fleshed out so well. What are some of your favorite characters from these first 3 volumes?
Oh, that's tough. That starts to get tough. Like I really like Omni-Man, especially at first, and then you find out that you shouldn't like him at all, But yeah, like Omni-Man's super fun at first, he's just like, I don't know, he's like Ward Cleaver if Ward Cleaver had superpowers, he's just honey, I'm home, kind of thing. They have this almost Brady Bunch, ridiculously suburban white lifestyle kind of thing. And then you come to find out that it's totally not what you think it is. But yeah, initially, Omni-Man was awesome. Mark is a lot of fun, but he's kind of like, he's hard to get a beat on. He's hard to read. And for whatever reason, I like Robot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's super stoic and whatever, and kind of Sheldon Cooper-y from Big Bang Theory, where he's just like, he just tells it how it is and does not care if he offends you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's not even necessarily like he doesn't recognize that what he's saying is offensive. He just doesn't care. He
literally doesn't care.
He's not going out of his way to be a jerk. He's just being downright honest and like utilitarian about it. Just like, nope, this is how it is. Like many of you, some of you would have made the team, but your powers are redundant with other people we chose for the team. And some of you shouldn't even been here to audition. You know who you are. Like,
oh, right. Yes.
I like Mark's buddy. You're right about Mark. He's hard to get a beat on just because he's fun, but he's rather plain.
He's also very serious, like he's just like, well, I got to get an A.
Yeah.
So I'm going to study, and then he was like, oh, well, okay, time to go fight some crimes.
Yeah. He's not milquetoast. He's just he's kind of basic. He's just plain. And I don't know if that's a matter of like, well, I just kind of want this neutral character in the middle of it, or if it's like, not going to make him extreme one way or the other so that as the reader could project themselves onto him, or I'm not sure what the deal is.
But that's the thing is like, that's why I mentioned Spider-Man early on is like, in that Spider-Man coming of age thing, you kind of identify with Peter Parker because he's the kid that gets picked on, and who doesn't think that they were kind of picked on, if not, like, unless you were the super cool kid, you probably didn't feel like you were the super cool kid. And even the super cool kid in high school probably didn't feel like they were the super cool kid. But Mark just feels like Mark. He doesn't feel like he ever really gets picked on. He's got one guy that's kind of a jerk to him, and that's about it.
He's like a super normal guy. Not to a fault, because he's too normal to have like that big of a fault, but almost to a fault. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, Mark. No. Yeah, okay. I forgot about that guy. No, yeah, Mark's cool. That kind of guy.
Right. Yeah.
In the series overall, one of my favorite characters is Adam Eve. But based on these, like, she's not bad here, but based on these, I'm not sure when I decided that, like, because she's okay here, but she's not amazing.
Yeah, I like her, but I don't think like she's great yet. I mean, if maybe something changes that makes her incredible, but she's not like Wonder Woman awesome yet.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, we don't actually, I think we get more into like what her powers actually are later on. We don't get to see her use her powers, but maybe once, and to fly. Like, she uses them in battle like once. Otherwise, she just kind of flies around and stuff. But her powers are super cool. And when she uses them, interestingly, it's cool.
We really don't see a lot of explanation of anybody's powers in these first 3 issues, now that you mention it. I mean, the Immortal is maybe the closest thing. And even then, we don't get a full, like, rundown.
His backstory is amazing. I don't even want to say because it'll spoil it, because when you come across this little bit of information about him, you're like, what? It's so amazing and ridiculous, but it works. I like Robot a lot too. He continues to be a cool character. And I think your assessment of him is completely accurate, because he can be cold, and that'll continue. Some really interesting things happen with him. Monster Girl's an interesting character that we don't like get to see anything much about, but they play her so well here.
Oh yeah.
And
because she makes it into the Guardians, right?
Yeah. Yep. She made it into the Guardians. Oh, and the mother. I like the mother character a lot. I like how she's played, other than the fact that all she does apparently is laundry.
Right.
Every time it cuts to her at home, she's doing laundry. And I'm like, okay. Okay, come on, man. But
Right.
like she can have a life outside of just doing laundry. I get that like there's a joke that she always has to do laundry for these guys, but you know, you give her something else to do. But I like her personality and I like her character. And I like that all the superheroics for the most part, like it's not that she's disinterested. She's just totally used to it. It's day-to-day life. She's not a superhero, but just living with one, now two superheroes. Like when they come back and tell her these insane stories about where they've been and what they've been doing.
She's like, that's nice, dear.
That's nice. Pass the potatoes. And
yeah,
but she's not completely disinterested because, you know, when Omni-Man's gone for a long time or when crazy stuff is happening at the end, like she's obviously like bothered by it and upset.
Well, and it's brutal. It's brutal the way that she like hears the whole story. It's like, oh yeah, I just let her listen to the tape of all the things that he said.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Brutal.
He said she was like a pet to him. But yeah, it's fantastic. I enjoy this series quite a bit.
Yeah, it was a good read. I enjoy it, and I would recommend it for sure. Especially if you like superheroes, but you're looking for something a little different, something that really celebrates superheroes, but you know, goes new places or strange places.
I'm not sure. I think it might have got cut, but the first time I was on Grind Bin, they were asking me about comic books, what I would recommend, and I don't know that recommending this was the best thing, especially on what that audience. Their audience would be. I probably could have thought of something better, but I kind of throw Invincible at people who are like, it's superhero comics, but I think it would have appeal for people that aren't generally into superhero comics, but I'm not sure if that's right or not because there's much more enjoyment to be had and nods and references in it if you know superhero
as
comics.
A fan.
Yeah,
sure.
But I just think
I could see that.
I just think the character work and the like crazy plot twists, the occasional crazy plot twists and stuff, I think would be enough to hook a non-superhero fan.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like this is a book we could probably talk for quite a while about, but
let's not. Let's
as
stop.
good a place as any to probably stop there. Yeah, and we've got some quick letters.
Ooh, letters page. Let's do it. This is Randy from in the future, and I have a very important message for you. The Grawlix podcast is missing something, and that something is you. Join our letters page segment. If you have thoughts on what we're reading, what we just read, what we're about to read, what you're reading, or you just want to say hi, send us an email to letters@grawlixpodcast.com, and we'll read and discuss your letter on the show. What the devil? What are you doing here? Hey folks, this is Randy from further in the future. And what my former self neglected to mention is we also have a Google Voice line. You can call it, leave a message, and we will play that message on the next episode of the Grawlix podcast. Try to keep it under 2 minutes. Whatever you want to talk to us about it. Ideally, something related to the show. Dial 559-426-6427, or if this helps you remember, 559-4-COMICS. Type that into your phone, you'll be connected to our voicemail, leave us a message, and we will play it on the show. This is getting ridiculous. Get out of my way. This is Randy from even further in the future. And what these two knuckleheads neglected to mention is if you'd rather send us an MP3 recording of yourself to play on the show, you can hit that email. Again, that's letters@grawlixpodcast.com with an MP3 attachment, and we'll play it during the show. Just try to keep your language clean and keep it under 2 minutes. Also, hey Bonehead, did you just shoot our younger self? It's cool. Shouldn't we be doing the Marty McFly disappear from the picture act right now? No, it's fine. He was a time remnant. Oh, a time. That doesn't make sense. A time remnant doesn't make sense. At some point, older Randy has to travel back to talk to younger Randy. But if older Randy kills younger Randy never gets to become older Randy and travel back in time. It's time travel, not cloning. We're not cloning and sending ourselves back. We're just time traveling. You don't know that. We could be operating on primer rules. In that case, there can only be one.
Again, from Twitter, just like last episode, we got some Twitter questions. So these come again from the Superior Squad. hashtag Superior Squad connected to the Superior Comic Show at Superior Comic 16. Anyways, this one comes from Sekra, and it's at Sekra_XP. She actually has 2 questions for us. The first one is a little bit more comic related and Marvel Comics in particular. And she asks what we thought about Marvel Generations, like what, and basically, what do we think we're going to get out of it in terms of, like, what's the payoff? What's the point of Marvel Generations? And so I don't know, like we hit comics kind of all over the place. So this is very much current affairs. This is very much like breaking comic news kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just now coming out, these generation books, and they are basically like the precursor to what is this whole Marvel legacy thing where they're rebranding everything and they're bringing everything back to legacy numbering. So, like Hulk is going to be issue 500 or something, which Marvel is notorious for starting things over at number 1 again and again and again.
It's such a strange thing to do. Oh, wait, no. First, I'll do my first joke. Marvel Generations, is that the new like Shazam family book? Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, you get your DC digs in there.
It's DC, right? Oh, wait, no, it's not DC. She doesn't talk about DC. No, it's such a strange thing to do for Marvel. Okay, it's kind of strange for when DC did it with Action Comics and Detective Comics, but they only deviated from it for 1 volume of books.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Marvel books have restarted at number 1 several times over at this point, haven't they?
Oh yeah. We've got some books that are on like volume 6. I don't even know if they like. I think we talked about this in the pre-show, but I think that there's books that they don't even call volume 6 or 7 or whatever for the sake of organization. They just say Spider-Man 2016 because this is the version of Spider-Man that started in 2016.
Yeah, Marvel's been so on the like renumbering train for a long time now. And, it drives me nuts when DC does this kind of stuff too. I understand why both companies do it. They're like, well, it's a new number 1. You'll get people to jump on to number 1. But as with the kind of collector mentality, like, no, you stick to the original number. You don't deviate. I want to know. Right. I want to know what you're up to. I want to know how many of those I have. I want to know what I'm missing. And
it's so much harder to keep track if you keep starting over.
Right. And it's like, so, okay, they're going to go back to legacy number. DC, at least, they jump to what the legacy number would be if they hadn't renumbered. So all those Detective Comics, the DC, new 52 Detective Comics slot into where those would be in the numbering scheme. What's
right?
Like, how's Marvel going to handle it? Are they just going to go to what the next number is?
It's willy-nilly. Like they'll grab things that were like Incredible Hulk. Like, how are you going to figure that out? Because you've got all these different offshoots of the Hulk. And then do you count the ones that were the Incredible Hulk, where Hercules was in charge of the book for a while?
Oh, no.
I mean, like, technically that's not a Hulk book anymore. So, I mean, I don't know.
It's maddening.
Like I've seen some of the I've seen some of their logic, and it doesn't work sometimes.
Madness.
This is bizarre. Okay, so like her question about Marvel Generations, though.
Mm-hmm.
So what that is it's these books where they're taking the old school and mixing it with the new school, so they go on an adventure together. So, for example, right now Wolverine is dead, so it's X-23 wearing the Wolverine. She is the current Wolverine. So she goes on like a time travel mission and is fighting right alongside Wolverine.
Okay.
Logan Wolverine. So not even old man Logan, but like regular Wolverine by X-23 Wolverine. So you've got Amadeus Cho is the current Hulk, and Bruce Banner is dead in the Marvel Universe. So somehow we've got Bruce Banner Hulk and Amadeus Cho Hulk, that kind of thing. Or Jane Foster, She-Thor, or Lady Thor, or whatever your preferred title is for her, and the regular Thor, or the male Thor, I guess, Odin's son. And so you have them both together in the same book, and they're just these one shots. I don't I really don't know what to expect from them. I haven't read any of them, and I really don't even have any interest in them. I don't know. I suppose they'd be fun, but I just don't see how they're going to tie in, or what really the purpose will be, other than just a quick, fun distraction while they get us ready for whatever Legacy is going to be. I mean, and they're not really even telling us what Legacy is going to be, but it seems like they're piggybacking off of the success of Rebirth. They kind of seem like they've been hinting that, and the speculation is that we'll get Fantastic Four back again. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not, but that's what everybody's kind of hoping for, is that we're going to have a return to the Marvel of old kind of idea.
Interesting. Well, wasn't this whole, they just shouldn't have done it. Don't follow DC in the first place. And then you won't have to try to follow them back when they realize they made the mistake.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But yeah, not knowing anything about what these books really are, the one-offs, yeah, I mean, I'm going to guess they're just kind of almost what ifs or whatever, just kind of a fun aside. Like
yeah. They probably have to be,
That would be my guess.
Like a paradox thing, like the throw Doctor Who rules in there where it's like, oh, well, this is now an aberrant timeline and you'll just forget it, or it won't matter to the current timeline anyways.
I can say, because it's the same for DC, but one of the things that, and I've dived into some Marvel stuff occasionally, like quite a while ago, I was fairly up on All New X-Men, because was it All New X-Men?
Yeah, where the young X-Men come to the future, or the present.
The concept was pretty interesting, and traditionally I've liked X-Men stuff quite a bit. And if you're not up on DC stuff, I'm assuming it's just the same, but it seems like it all gets so messy as what you could consider a new reader, since I don't read much Marvel. Like, I have no idea where I'd even want to start. And when I hear like Jesse as a longtime Marvel reader, like confused and kind of disappointed or whatever, dismayed by like the mess of whatever this last event was, like, I'm just like,
not even the last event,
the current,
the several. That's where I'm coming from, is that these events have stacked in unusual ways, and some of them I just don't even care about. Like, I don't even know what happened, and I don't care to know. But I mean, that's just that event fatigue kind of thing. And some of them have been fine. Some of them have been fun. And it's been my general criticism of Marvel events, is that they got into some kind of a formula where it's like 6 to 8 issues and it's done, whether it's done or not.
Oh, interesting.
And that kind of started with, maybe it didn't start with Civil War, but it kind of continued from Civil War, where you had Civil War for about 6 to 8 issues. And then you had, not too long after, I don't remember what the exact next one was, but I think it was like Secret Invasion, where the Skrulls had been secretly replacing people for years. It was basically like a spiritual sequel to the Skrull Kree War kind of thing. And it's like, well, yeah, that's their whole thing. They're shapeshifters. They replace you. You never knew they were a Skrull. And it's a great idea. And they wrap it up in 6 issues. No, that's a long game thing, man. And the idea is the way they tried to get around it was that, oh no, it was always happening. It was always happening. And we'll just flesh it out in all the tie-ins. Well, nobody's going to buy all the tie-ins. And by the end, your resolution just spirals you into the next big event, which is Siege. So at the end of Secret Invasion, you have Norman Osborn shoot the Skrull Queen in the head, and now he's the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. because everybody trusts him because he killed a queen of the Skrulls, and now he's in charge, and he's the Iron Patriot, and now he's going to take down Thor, like Thor's whole kingdom thing. I mean, like, it just starts to get laughable. Like, what? You just totally flipped the script. This one now has nothing to do with the last one. We left it behind. So I don't know. So it's a building and mounting frustration that has led me to Generations. I don't care. Like it's not going to matter.
Sure.
Like if I'm just literally answering Sakra's question on this one, I don't know what we'll get out of it because it's probably going to be inconsequential to what's going to happen with Marvel moving forward. It's probably just a little bit of fun and hopefully it is fun. Hopefully it's written well and you'll get to I think you'll get to pick and choose these because I don't think they're going to be strung together in any kind of super tight narrative. I think each one will be basically for the Thor fans or for the Hulk fans or for the Wolverine fans. I don't think you're going to need to read them all for any reason. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Solid.
I feel like that was dour.
Yeah,
I feel like I had like an old man rant. Back in my day, when there was the Marvels.
You just reacted
Alex
at the
Ross
news
is
hard.
doing the. Yeah, I did. I reacted at the news. I was having a hard time with it. Okay, so I love that she followed up with this next question though. So this one's also from Sakra. And it's also, how can Hollywood Hulk Hogan's skin look so shiny and smooth and still look like leather? And I gotta think that the fact that Hulk Hogan can even still walk, he's a cyborg. He's like a Terminator. It's not really skin. Like it's just, like he could cut his arm with a knife and like just peel that off and there'd be like a robot what is that, endoskeleton?
Yeah. It'd
be an endoskeleton.
Terminator
underneath.
style.
Yeah, he's a Terminator.
Oh yeah.
What you gonna do, brother? I will be back.
Cyber Hulk running wild over you, brother.
running wild. That's the only answer I got for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on board with that. I'll just piggyback that with like, it is leather, but it's like fine. This ain't cheap leather. This is fine, elegant leather that like you can just replace.
Like a brushed leather.
Yeah,
it's like a suede. It's like a suede leather.
It's like this leather's getting scuffed up. Time to get a new one.
Largest arms in the world, brother.
That's why it's Hollywood.
What you gonna do? When the Top Gun flight jacket arms run wild on you.
What do you think Hollywood Hogan was all about? That's not cheap to maintain cyborg leather.
No, that's true. It's true, especially with recession and price of leather going up. And yeah,
I guess the real question is, what kind of leather is it? Is it like baby seal leather? Is it like hardcore like that?
Oh man,
or is it just like grass-fed cow leather or something? free
grass-fed cow leather.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so now the deep dive here. Okay, one more. And it comes from @D_M_Elms ELMS. So okay. DM Elms. With all the gender swapped mainstream superheroes, do you agree with that or not? And who are some that you might want to see tried? So like what characters out there would you like to see gender swapped? Which, like we've talked about gender swapping characters in the past.
Quite.
Yeah. If you'd like to, revisit that, just look for our poll list pick episodes on Angela, Queen of Hell, or the Goddess Thor. Look for those, and you'll get like a deep dive in what we think of gender swapping in general. But like particularly when it's handled well and not well in both regards. But the interesting part of this question for me is that we've never really talked about like who would we actually want to see that happen with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've definitely touched on this topic. I mean, even just recently, last month with our Doctor Who episode, we touched on this topic, and there was kind of an interesting distinction because we generally, and Melanie's not here on this episode, but I definitely kind of echo her thoughts on it. Melanie's deal is like, why can't you just have an original female character? Why do you have to take like Batman and make it a girl, or a woman, Batwoman and Batgirl, or take Thor and make it a woman, instead of just like, here's this original woman character, like give her own identity instead of like it's this guy, but now it's a girl. And
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of...
She's definitely not alone in that opinion. You know, like we've heard this from a lot of people. And sometimes people are like, you're like, and there's the, you know, they have a response to that too. And it's that, you know, like, well, you need to have a black Superman because you've never had a black Superman. And, you know, well, you know, that kind of thing.
You might like it. You don't know.
Well, I mean, you know, in that, now he's a role model for all people and not just white people.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense too. I think the Doctor Who thing provided interesting contrast, at least for our opinions on that, because for Doctor Who, I don't know why logically any of this makes sense, but logically it makes more sense to us because Doctor Who is not necessarily traditionally a male character, but not established. Like, I don't know. It's worked into...
It plays within the rules.
Exactly.
You know, like they established rules that would allow for this. And this is just playing within the rules. It was always an option. It was always a possibility. Whereas a lot of these, it's like, okay, well, we didn't know that it was a possibility, but we're going to make it a possibility.
Yeah. And it's not to say that like these not to say gender has to play by the rules, quote unquote, but no, yeah, you're right. Because it's not a matter of like, why can't this woman character have her own like identity? It's why haven't we had a female Doctor yet? Because it's well within the established story of it, you know, just to make that distinction.
Sure.
Who would we like to see it tried with? Doctor Who? Is that too easy? It's going to happen. I don't know. That's not a serious answer.
I think I have an answer. Unfortunately, it has been done though, and it's been done poorly. And that's I guess would be also my concern with the gender swapping is anytime it's just done poorly, you just ruin it. You know, like so my answer has been done poorly, and it is, why isn't there a female Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
Oh, interesting. Like, real interesting.
Why not? Why not? You know, except that they did do it. They did have they had a character in a really awful version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles done by Saban. So we're talking Power Rangers, that era, you know. So Power Rangers took off, did really well. And then the Ninja Turtles had basically a Saban show, which was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Next Mutation. And there was a female Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle in there. But it was, you know, like that idea was so, what's the word? Controversial or divisive or whatever. People just didn't like that character to the point where later on, when the property was handed off to different companies and whatnot in the comic book world, like I think it was Image Comics got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles around this time. And so they had the property to do what they wanted with it. And like the de facto rule in the office was no girl Ninja Turtles, no girls allowed.
Oh, interesting.
And so like towards the end, I can't remember which run it was, but like they even did a thing so the female Ninja Turtle was called Venus de Milo, based on an Italian sculpture, the one that has the arms broken off. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, like they're going with the Italian art thing some more with the naming scheme of the Renaissance painters and sculptors. And, you know, like, yeah, why not? Why not? I guess. But you have to write it well. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. She wasn't really written well so much as just shoehorned in there. But it's like, okay, we had Slash. We've had Turtles since then, since the original 4. Why wouldn't it? You know, they've created so many crazy mutants in that universe that why couldn't we have a gender swap Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Why couldn't we have another one, a 5th turtle? So I guess that would be my answer. But it comes down to writing.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like the ultimate end answer for all of these is it comes down to writing. I have an example of this done well, like very well. It kind of reaches outside of comics, but this popped in my head. James Bond. Whoa, slow down. Not necessarily James Bond, although that could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
M is basically like his, I guess his boss.
Oh yeah,
and traditionally was always a male until was it Pierce Brosnan's Bond.
Was it? Okay.
It became, is it Judi Dench? Judy Drent? What is her name? Judi Dench. Judi Dench.
Okay.
I thought that worked well. And I think recently it's been switched to a male again. But that's a little bit different in that M is basically a title. Like, it's not necessarily the same.
Like
character.
Bond. Like, technically, couldn't you even have a female Bond?
You could have a female Bond. And I would enjoy that. And
Jane Bond, I guess.
If they have a female Bond, I still want them to stick by Bond's, like, insatiable appetite. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Stick true to the character. Wait for people to get upset and be like, this is Bond. That's what Bond does, because people will get upset.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So why is it worse now that it's a woman than when it was a male? I think that'd be.
When I like, that was the next thing. It was like, okay, so this is how we generally think about gender swapping, right? Like, we generally, because that's the way it's been done most recently, is that they just take a male character and make it female. Mm-hmm. So are there any good ones that you'd like to see swap the other way, where it's traditionally a female character, but it could be a male? And I don't think it would go well. Like, I think it would have as much or more backlash if we went the other way and just gave another female character over to a man.
A lead Doctor Who companion? It's been a while. But we already talked about that too, and this might not be a great time for that anyway. Just because I have Bond up, Moneypenny.
Oh, okay, I could see that.
The secretary that Bond always flirts with. Keep Bond a male, make Moneypenny a male. I want to see that.
And keep flirting with him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
And keep that dynamic, because that's Bond.
But yeah, I mean, as for a legit answer to the question from me, I don't know. I'm kind of hard pressed just because I can't think of, because Swamp Thing, I was just thinking my favorite character. Swamp Thing could easily be a female, because in fact, I'm pretty sure there's been several female Swamp Thing type creatures. Did Abby turn kind of swampy? I'm not sure. At one point, or was she always human? I do have a blind spot in my swampy history, so I'm not sure, but I know more recently she did become an avatar, but she became an avatar of the Rot. So,
I guess Amanda Waller could be a man, but I prefer Amanda Waller the way she is.
Yeah, that's
I don't want to see that change.
Yeah, that's kind of tough for switching it the other way, because I don't know, the cool female characters that are out there, you're like, I don't really want to. I don't want to.
No, don't mess with it. Yeah,
I don't want to change her.
Why would you do that?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a tough question, but I think a good one.
Yeah.
It's a topic that, man, for the most part, we should kind of stay away from. But I think our opinions are right. No, I think our opinions are like
right. Yeah,
are loose enough, and we're generally not the kind of people that are like staunch to opinions. If somebody can like kind of be like, well, here's why this is maybe not a great way to think about it. We're flexible. We're not inflexible jerks like a lot of people are, which is where a lot of this comes from, just blindly like wanting to battle over a topic. But yeah, we have empathy. Something a lot of people lack. We have empathy, man.
Yep, we do.
Man, Jesse, you and I, we're great. We're good.
It's really good. You know how good we are?
We're going to fix the gender
We're
problem.
so good. We're so...
Wait.
No, I was trying to spin this into a Patreon plug.
There's not a problem with gender. We're going to fix gender politics.
We're so good that you guys should give us at least $1 a month through our Patreon so that you can get access to more of us via our pre-shows and our live video feeds, which Randy puts out monthly. That's how good we are.
You want to hear what we really think?
Yeah.
Want to hear what we say when no one's
watching? You should hear just how good we are.
Oh, man. These are our public opinions. Come be a Patreon and see our paid opinions. Wait.
Our paid opinions. What was that? Oh, it's Mike Birbiglia, my secret public journal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I don't think I mentioned about, one last thing, because it ties into a little bit of what we were just talking about. One of my favorite characters in Invincible is Adam Eve. I talked about that earlier. Not wild about how her character is handled throughout the series. In fact, I'd say that's Invincible's, the series' biggest flaw, is how she is handled.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say that much. That is my one real gripe about the series. Otherwise, I love it. Not wild about how her character is handled throughout the whole thing. And I might play into just, I don't know, gender roles and stuff. But anyway, that's it.
That's all we got.
Remember when we were talking about Invincible like 45 minutes ago? Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. You tune in next week when we'll talk about, or not next week, next month when we'll talk about Immortal Iron Fist at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and cultural appropriation. Wait.
Yeah.
No.
And whatever you guys, want us to talk about, if you have questions for us, just like these folks did, just shoot them to us either through Twitter or through our letters email page, letters@grawlixpodcast.com. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm getting better at this.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. I'm loving the Twitter questions. Like, those are great.
Thank you to DM Elms and Sekra this week for your questions.
Huge thank you. You know who I want to see gender swapped?
Who?
Grawlix podcast.
Oh, yeah. It'll be 2 chicks and 1 dude.
Exactly. But still like kind of, I think that
who I want to see? You know who I want to see gender swapped?
Who?
Terminator Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
Yes. Gender swap Terminator Hulk Hogan.
She'll be able to make complex machines, unlike the T-1000 or 2000 or whatever it was.
Oh, right. Yeah. Was that Terminator X or whatever? I don't know.
Terminator X.
Terminatrix.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? Oh,
yeah.
boy.
Ooh.
Running wild.
All over you.
Running wild. What you gonna do, sister?
Yeah, you know what? You sold me. I'm on board with this female Hulk Hogan Terminator.
Hey guys, this is Brandon from the Technology Geek podcast. You can catch all of our shows on the technologygeek.org, as well as on iTunes and all other places where podcasts are carried. We also have a wonderful blog. We talk computers, the internet, programming, cell phones, and pretty much anything geek. So come and visit us and listen to our wonderful show at thetechnologygeek.org.
All right, come on, we're in.
This is awesome. We're in the Grawlix studios.
Look, it's a plate of Mel's Hot Biscuits. I've heard about those.
Oh my God, check it out. Jesse and Randy's beard oil. I didn't know you can buy that in buckets. Well, that Sam Club's membership is really paying off.
Okay, let's get in their computer and drop this promo.
Okay, let's do it.
We're the Roman Podcast, and in the future, we're sneaking a promo on the Grawlix show.
Okay, no, okay, seriously.
Seriously. Here we go.
I'm Roman LeBeau.
And I'm Rob Gast.
And we're from the Roman Podcast. We're just 2 Canadian guys getting together once a week to put our own spin on weird stories and trending news.
That's right. You can get our show every Wednesday night on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, the Laughable app, and of course, here on the EMC Podcast Network.
Okay, I think we got it. Put that on their show. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Hang on. While I'm in their computer, I'm just going to update their comic book pull list for the next few months.
What are you adding?
Captain Canuck, of course.
Nice.
This is Jesse. Grawlix Mania is running wild, sister.
This has been Randy. Hulkamania is like a single grain of sand in the Sierra Desert. That is Grawlix madness. Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of the Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. For more Grawlix podcasts, check out grawlixpodcast.com. Also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, YouTube, electronicmediacollective.com, facebook.com/grawlixpodcast, twitter.com/grawlixpodcast, all the .com/all the Grawlix podcast.
Yes.
What a great Hulkamania is like a single grain of sand in the Sierra Desert. That is macho madness.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh, I was just looking at these Hulk Hogan quotes, and each one's as good as the last one, for sure. God created the heavens. He created the earth. He created all the Hulkamaniacs. Then he created a set of 24-inch pythons, brother.
What?
Yep.
All right.
Holy cow.
And Macho Man responds, expect the unexpected in the kingdom of madness. Too hot to handle, too cold to hold.
You call the Ghostbusters in, they're out of control.